What's up guys and welcome to the channel. So today's video is the full review of the Vaxee Zygen NP-01S. I was very impressed about the outset AEX and I had very high hopes for this one when I heard about it. I've been using the mouse for about 3 to 4 weeks and here are my thoughts. Starting with the build quality, the Vaxee Zygen NP-01S is very well built. There is no creaking, no rattle, but I can actuate the side buttons when I really squeeze the mouse from the sides. I do not consider this a real issue, as this does not happen in real use. Of course, it would still be nice not to have side flex at all, especially at a mouse that weighs 76 grams. Regarding the weight, the mouse is very well balanced and it does not feel heavy whatsoever. And I have to say that 76 grams is light enough for me. I would want to see the mouse weigh less than 70 grams, but this is not Vaxee's design philosophy and I completely understand that. And to be fair, it would probably not affect my in-game performance at all. The engineering has been pretty impressive for all these Vaxee mice and that continues with the NP-01S. Usually when you open up a small or a cheap mouse there is only pretty much the PCB and the top shell, but opening up the NP-01S, the engineering seems to be on the same level as Logitech. The bottom PCB has the frame from the scroll wheel and then there is this whole separate frame that holds all the other button switches. One thing that I absolutely love about this engineering is that the button pieces are screwed into the frame. So there are no cheap plastic thin contact points that wear out in time and make the clicks feel worse. Logitech uses this same exact design for the Superlight and the G Pro Wireless. I've talked to many different R&D people from different manufacturers and pretty much everybody seems to agree that Logitech engineering is on another level. So it's nice to see Vaxee use this similar kind of engineering. Looking at the design, as with all of the Vaxee products, this is also ergonomic. Just like the NP-01, if you take a quick look at the mouse from the top side, it does look like it's symmetrical, but it's definitely not. If you check out the bottom of the mouse, it's easy to see that the left and the right sides are different. The NP-01S follows these Vaxee design principles quite well again, as it's easy to tell that all of these mice are made by the same manufacturer. The main mouse buttons are still using the Huano 10M switches and I have to say that the click feeling is really good for gaming. It's very tactile and crispy, but the buttons are still easy to actuate. So it's easy to spam click the buttons, for example in MOBA games or when you tap fire in CSGO. The click design is more like the NP-01 than the outset AEX, but there is some added post shuffle. And this light post shuffle is something that makes the clicks feel softer and more spammable. There is also pretty much zero pre-travel on either one of my copies. There is absolutely no wobble or side play that I can feel in game, but I can definitely make the buttons wobble, but in my opinion this does not really matter as I just don't feel it in real use. Overall the click feeling is very top tier. I prefer the outset AX clicks slightly more because they are even softer and easier to actuate, but these are still on the lighter side and you should definitely not accidentally actuate these. The side buttons are again very tactile and crispy, but there is some post shuffle on the backside button. If you use quite a bit of force when you press the backside button in game, you can definitely feel the post shuffle. This is really not an issue for me, but these are by no means perfect. Other than that, there is pretty much no pre-travel on any of the buttons and the click feeling is tactile and crispy as I already mentioned. The side buttons are also very well placed for my 19x10cm hands and my claw grip style. The scroll wheel is still the standard Vaxee scroll wheel. It's quite heavy, it's really tactile and it's really loud. It's okay for gaming, but for desktop use it's really not that great. But hey, if there is one thing that can be bad about the mouse and I can still love it, that's going to be the scroll wheel. So all in all, the main mouse buttons are awesome, the side buttons are really good and the scroll wheel is a Vaxee scroll wheel. Here is a sound test. By the way guys, we just hit 5,000 subscribers, so massive thank you for you all. And remember that if you enjoy my content, hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. The sensor in the Vaxee NP-01S is again the 3389 from Pixar and the performance is top tier. 1000Hz polling rate is stable and the DPI deviation is in normal numbers. Of course there is no acceleration or added input lag and the mouse feels very responsive. The configuration options are still the same. There is the DPI button, the polling rate button and the click latency button on the bottom of the mouse. I highly recommend for you to use the 2 millisecond response time setting. Some people have told me that they can't get used to the 2 millisecond setting, but just get used to it because the faster click latency, the better the performance. The cable and the mouse feet are also the same as previously. The mouse feet are 0.6mm thick and they are pure PTFE. The glide is really good on speed pass, like for example the MPC450, and these slightly slower feet add some stopping power to that mousepad, which is always helpful. But because these feet are a little bit slower than the fastest stock feet I've tried, some control pads can feel a little bit slow. For the cable, it's definitely not the most flexible cable on the market, but I actually prefer these cables that hold their shape. These are so easy to set up in a bungee so that the cable does not touch your mousepad at all, and therefore it creates no friction or drag. And I actually barely can feel this cable when I use my Pulsar micro bungee. I know most enthusiasts prefer cables like the XM1R that's quite a bit more flexible, but for me with high sensitivity, this is really great. There are two different options for the NP-01. There is the white version and the black version. The white version is glossy coated and the black version is matte coated. The coatings are exactly the same as on the Outset AEX, and the matte coating in these two mice is one of the best I've ever tried. Glossy coating is usually better for dry hands and matte coating is better for slightly sweaty or sweaty hand. Moving on to shape, and keep in mind that I already made an initial impressions video about the NP-01S. So if you want a lot of comparisons to different kind of shapes, check that video out, click the card in the right corner. But the best way to describe the NP-01S shape is that it's quite low profile but still has a pronounced hump. The hump is 36mm high in the highest point. The mouse is also quite thin, as it's something like 56 to 57mm wide. But it's exactly the same length as the NP-01, and that's 120mm. The pronounced hump makes the mouse very good for a claw grip, and the ergonomic curvature on the right side of the hump means also that you can tilt your wrist when you claw the mouse. The right side ergonomics also make the mouse very good for fingertip grip for me. But fingertip grip is not my main grip style, so I do not want to comment too much about it. For palm grip, you would need to have small hands. I would say anything less than 17cm should be completely fine for palm. But in regards of fingertip grip and claw grip, I think this is good for small, medium and large hands. Of course, if you have large hands and you prefer larger mice, I would look for the NP-01 rather than this one. That somewhat applies to medium hands as well, as this mouse is on the smaller side. I'm a massive fan of this shape, and I do love this idea of having a slightly ergonomic shape. Because the mouse is quite low profile, has a pronounced hump and is quite thin, I feel that I am very precise with it in games like CSGO, Quake, Valorant and whatever. So the Vaxee Zygen NP-01S is definitely a top tier product. I think it's finally time to dethrone the Xtrfy M42 as the best small mouse I've tried. The M42 is ambidextrous and the NP-01S is ergonomic, but for me these two are pretty much interchangeable. That's pretty much it for this video. Super happy about the NP-01S. A really high quality mouse with a really great shape and great performance. If we forget nitpicking, there is pretty much nothing to complain for me. I mentioned that I like these kind of cables that hold their shape because they are easy to set up in a bungee, especially if you have a high sensitivity. But I do understand why some people would want a more flexible cable. I think what G-Bulls did with their HDS wireless charging cable is something that could improve the cables massively, at least for me. Having sort of a mixture of stiff and flexible cable could be very interesting, as you could easily set it up in a bungee like what I do with these cables. But then again, the rest of the cable would be very flexible. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you enjoy my content, hit that subscribe button and see you in the next one.